people, we've got to fight. Jean Petro, you see us. Oh, we've got to fight. Let's go fight. Oh, black people, we've got to fight. Zumbi, you see us. Oh, we've got to fight. Let's go fight. Oh, black people, we've got to fight. Yes, Santa, why you see us? Oh, we've got to fight. Let's go fight. Oh, black people, we've got to fight. Bookman, you see us. Oh, we've got to fight. Let's go fight. Oh,
we have to have the courage to construct our own reality. And that's what Garvey was talking about. Because he said he looked around, he didn't see what he thought should be there, and so what did he do? He didn't get depressed about it. He didn't get defeated about it. He said, I'm gonna build the government that we need to have. Ooh, where do you get that kind of boldness from? So we gotta go all the way back to Garvey, who said he would come again. He said he would be here with us, no matter how long it took. And I'm telling you that the way he comes back is in our work. Not honoring him in words, pomp, and all of that stuff, but honoring him through doing what he did. How many of us have the courage to do that? The man took on the world for us and in our name. And then we come to Sodai. And in this presentation of the paradigm, I'm going to make this like what it is we want to reach. So Sodai is translated clear word in Dogana language. And I use it to mean that here we gain understanding. This is sight with understanding. And it is seeing beyond what just we think we see with this physical thing. It's seeing beyond that. And so we gain vision, because that's what vision is. With vision, you've got to be able to use the imagination informed by the African spirit. And Brother Amos, who I work very closely with, was a good friend of mine. He taught me, and he would talk about imagination. Image a nation. Do you see? But that's got to be part of vision. To be a visionary, you got to see beyond this box here. You got to see beyond the ma'afa. You got to see what is it that our people rightfully should have, and that's what Garvey did. Garvey had a vision.
New era, new transition. Greetings, this is Shakara, and it's been an honor serving you as director of gotkushTV. Over the past few years, we've brought you the pilot of the Black Root Economic Show, many seasons of Wordsmith, The Insight, and the ever-popular Decipher. We have covered community events and even hosted a few of our own, including Blacktricity as a part of the official Ghana Beyond the Return roster. We also kept you company throughout lockdown with the quarantine convo. After a brief hiatus, we came back with our regular weekly interactive live show, Zivanai, keeping you up to date with current events around the black world, from UK to Senegal to Haiti and beyond. It is our aim to continue to develop as a premier black media institution, and for that reason, we have a special announcement. Introducing Kimbunga Media. Between the 10th of June and the 17th of Mosiah, August, we will be transitioning to a new name and institution, Kimbunga Media. In the beautiful Kiswahili language, Kimbunga means whirlwind.
Look for me in a whirlwind or a storm. Look for me all around you. For with God's grace, I shall come back with countless millions of black men and women who have died in America, those who have died in the West Indies, and those who have died in Africa, to aid you in the fight for liberty, freedom, and life.
Our name symbolizes our aim to take the media landscape by storm, developing high quality, impactful, geopolitical and cultural content aimed at empowering African people, bringing knowledge, information, inspiration and analysis from an unapologetically Pan-African, universal African nationalist and African-centered perspective. So, what can you expect? We are gradually developing a full spectrum of flagship shows and presenters, but in the immediate right here now, over the next couple of years, we have two major aims in bringing you our flagship shows. One, the return of Kush Communiversity, bringing you high-level scholarship in all areas of people activity, featuring luminaries from across the black world. And two, the production of the full first season of the new and improved Ujamaa Black Group Economic Show. While we encourage you to develop and support black businesses, this show aims to raise our awareness of the political economy of today's world and popularize new solution paradigms in political economy among African people. Alongside all this, we will continue to bring you Zivanai, Jaliba, the Afrocentric perspective, All Eyes on Africa, Ghana, Democracy Under Fire, the Revolutionary Minds team with that artistic, ancestral energy, and as things grow and develop, there'll be plenty more. We also have plans to host live events and film screenings, so stay tuned for more information on that. So what can you do? Continue to support us by watching, liking, sharing and commenting on our content. Be sure to follow us on all social media, and if you are so moved, join our Patreon community. We'll be sharing flagship shows exclusively with our Patreon community before general release and granting you discounts to events and future screenings. Right now, if you become a Patreon, you will have access to the pilot for the Black Group Economic Show and all installments of last year's Black History Month series, Sankofa, The Future of Black History. At some point, we'll be engaging in community crowdfunding towards the production of the new and improved Ujamaa Black Group Economic Show, complete with offerings and perks for those who choose to invest in us. Look out for the launch, and we thank you in advance for your support. Any questions, feel free to hit us up in the comment section and we'll be sure to address. We look forward to you joining us for this new phase of our development. Stay tuned as we bring you Kimbunga Media. Tendai Mwali, be thankful unto the Mother, Father, creative life force of the universe, Kudzai, Mudzimu Mukulu. We give praises unto our great ancestors. Abibi to me, Abibi Fahodi, African power and African liberation for all African people. Greetings and welcome, brothers and sisters, to another edition of Zivanai. Mekwetak, hashtag Mekwetak. Zivanai, for those who are unaware, is a beautiful word spoken in the Shona language, which is mostly spoken in Zimbabwe. And it simply means let us get to know each other, brothers and sisters. Reasoning, you know what I mean? Verbal intercourse, groundings. Yeah, grounds, we are grounds right about now, kings and queens, yeah? Our weekly grounding session. And we invite you to come through and interact with I and I, you know what I'm saying? As I self and the I them, we are listening, we are tuning, we are watching, and all of these things. And today, we're going to talk about the white imperialist technocracy. Yes, indeed, brethren and sisters, we're going to talk about the white imperialist technocracy. You know, the reason for the inspiration behind this particular topic is one day, about 4 days ago, them say we have IT outage. The IT shut down all around the world. Yeah, the IT shut down all around the world and all them things there. People can't get them flight and can't access them computer and TV network pop down and all of these things. Me say the medical industry, you know, it affected and all them things there. So we want to explore what it go on there, so, but not specifically in relation to the happenings of a few days ago. But we want to explore why is it that one company, yeah, one institution or related group of institutions can have so much impact upon all the people and technology. You know what I'm saying? We want to explore that little piece. So we're going to do that with the assistance of one book, yeah? So do stay tuned. We're going to explore that little more. You know what I'm saying? And you'll be able to understand where we are set and where we are going with around here. So we want to encourage you as you come through to make sure so you like up the video as you come through, brothers and sisters. Like up the video. Share the link far and wide. But the people that know Shakara is live right about now. Make we talk discussing the imperialist technocracy. More specifically, the white power imperialist technocracy, kings and queens. Plenty of things are going on in the world still, you know. Plenty of things are going on in the world. So we're going to touch on a couple of them still, you know what I'm saying? And then, as usual, we'll share the link and Ono can, you know, come through and, you know, raise for your points, them, you know what I mean, respond to what we did say and all of them thing there, all right? And so we want to big up those who are tuned in. Say Imhotep is around, but him say him there at the bank I draw out the millions, you know what I mean? Him there at the bank I draw out the millions. So, yeah, take care of the millions, you know what I mean? Brother said. You know what I mean? Big up Jadori and Chimurenga in the building. And shout out to Melaman in the building also. All those who are watching right about now, the silent viewers, we welcome you to the stream. And we look forward to your interactions little more as we delve into the vibration. And you know, I said the big news going over there in the United Snakes of America. You know what I mean? U.S. Satan, as I've also heard it referred to, say the incumbent, the president, Joe Biden, stepped down, say him now run for re-election and all these things. And as it stands at the moment, it seems like most of the party, the Democratic Party that is, has coalesced behind the current vice president, Kamala Harris. And depending on where you study and where you read and who you listen to, you hear reports say that she's a black woman with one African parent from Jamaica and one Indian parent from India. There are those who dispute this and say that the black parent is not black, in totality, he's maybe half black. Yeah. Won't be getting into that today because for the point that I want to make about it, it's not the paramount issue. Because whatever the reality is, Kamala Harris is being perceived as a black woman by the establishment, or be a mixed black woman, and by significant portions of the black community in the USA and worldwide. And it's very interesting to pre the dynamics about the US election right about now. Very, very interesting, because there's a whole heap of political tribalism developing among black people. Yeah. I've seen a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot, I've seen some Donald Trump supporters and a whole heap of ardent Democratic Party stroke Kamala Harris supporters. And among much of the Donald Trump supporters that I've seen, the closest they seem to be able to come, some of them, to an analysis and a critique of Kamala Harris is that she's not, in fact, a DOS stroke FBA. This yeah, is the only sufficient relevant analysis that they think is applicable at this moment in time. That she's not FBA. Yeah. The Trumpists of all stripes seem to think that challenging black people's supposed or actual devotion to the Democratic Party as far as voting patterns are concerned is to replace that devotion with a high level of devotion to the Republican Party in general and Donald Trump in particular. And as I recently said on certain social media, it seems that for many Trumpists out there, and this goes beyond even the bounds of the United States of America, because there's plenty of Trumpists in the UK and throughout the English-speaking world, believe it or not. For some of the Trumpists, they seem to think that a viable replacement for vote blue, no matter who, which is the general characterization of much of the black community sentiments around voting, vote blue, no matter who, they seem to think that it's viable to replace vote blue, no matter who, with jump into bed with the red. Jump into bed with the red. Jump into bed with Donald Trump. Jump into bed with the Republican Party. That's what the Trumpist element is saying. And then alongside the Democratic side, we said enough things are going around here. Them, Biden drop out because it's obvious to anybody with even minimal intelligence that he should have been running in the first place. And the Democratic Party realized finally that they're really in danger of losing this race. But they really can't justifiably go wrong the vice presidential candidate for all kinds of logistical reasons. And they wanted to do that, they would have to have got to this point at, significant number of months ago. And so now, among the ardent Democratic supporters, The call is to get behind Kamala Harris. And in getting behind Kamala Harris, the American public in general and the black community in particular is being encouraged to quote-unquote support black women. Couple days ago, me say 40,000, 40-odd thousand, come here, say 45,000 black women jumped on a live chat a couple days ago, and within the space of hours, raised over $2 million for Kamala Harris. That is serious business. And when you hear them things, it make you have to wonder what we could have done with 40,000 people are raised $2 million in the space of hours for serious work on behalf of African people. If we could have raised 2 million in the space of hours for an African-centered educational institution, it would have been beautiful if we could do that, brothers and sisters. You know, just as an example, that would have been a beautiful thing to do. But no, we raised black women specifically because there's supposed to be a black man called of a similar inclination today or tomorrow, as spearheaded by Roland Martin. Roland Martin, unfiltered, whose messaging apparently seems to be increasingly filtered through the lens of the Democratic Party. But that's another subject for another time. So they raised millions in hours. So me, I want to know, how and when did supporting black women become synonymous with supporting white power Western imperialism? And that me want to know, because I have not seen or heard anything from our dear sister Kamala Harris that would suggest that she's inclined to be any less imperialist as Commander-in-Chief of the United States of America than Joe Biden, than Donald Trump, than Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, and the rest of them. And you will notice that on either side of the dynamics that I have elucidated, whether it's those who are voting Republican, either because they consider themselves conservative or they are devoted to the personality of Donald Trump, or they are vote blue no matter who. So whether it's vote blue no matter who or jump into bed with the red, an analysis of American imperialism seems to be absent the considerations. Even among some people, some of whom claim to be Pan-Africanists and have Pan-African inclinations and are championing Trump at this moment, their championing of Donald Trump doesn't seem to carry within it an analysis of Trumpian foreign policy, of Trumpian relationship to Mama Africa, the Caribbean. You may just about get an analysis of Trump relationship with using the statistics to the black community in America. And so it seems to me, brothers and sisters, that this agenda this seductive agenda of having us aligned with Bakra power in today's world is having some significant impact. That's another subject for another time. It's not my subject today that I want to really get into. That's what I touch on that. Yeah, it's a very interesting time in this time at this moment as far as global geopolitics is concerned. Yeah, last week we touched upon David Lammy and the fact that he was has been appointed as the foreign secretary for the United Kingdom of Great Britain, and made a similar point that the Labour Party, just like the Conservative Party, is an institution of white power and Western imperialism. But day, your kings and queens, global outage go on the international scene. Yes, global outage go on the international scene. I want to explore some of the dynamics surrounding that global outage. Yeah, first of all, make we consult BBC. For make we know what it go on, what they yeah. Make we consult BBC. Serious business. BBC article: how a single, note the use of the word single, IT update caused global havoc. I want to know, how did a single IT update cause global havoc? And apparently, this is what enough people saw on them computer screen a couple of days ago. Them call it the deadly blue screen. Yeah, recovery. You know what I mean? And you might not recover your things, them and all these things. Yeah, the deadly blue screen. So this article written by Zoe Kleinman, who is the technology editor at the BBC, published on the 19th of July, which is the date in question, says the following. A single update pushed out from an antivirus company in the US has managed to cause global havoc today. It's being described as the biggest outage ever. And while there have been a few lately, it's certainly hard to recall something that has taken out as many services and companies across the world as this one has. Some people say this is the biggest IT outage ever in history. Yeah. Some people say that is the case. I stopped updating my list of brands reporting issues within an hour of starting it because there were simply so many names to keep track of. You may never have heard of the antivirus firm CrowdStrike before. So CrowdStrike is the institution in question and at fault, and they are a firm that caters for antivirus concerns. Yeah, so that's important information. All kind of conspiracy about hacking and data and all them things they are going. Me no know, but that's not necessarily where we're going today. But it is in a very important sense, and do stay tuned to where we are going tonight. We are dealing with the imperialist technocracy. Yes, indeed, brothers and sisters. So you may never have heard of the antivirus firm CrowdStrike before, but something it did to its virus scanner Falcon had a very adverse effect on computers running Windows software. So we know it's a Windows, Windows, along with Apple's thing, iOS they're basically the two big giants as far as software is concerned in the computer industry in the Western world and throughout the world, in fact. Yeah. Generally speaking, if you're not deal with Windows, you deal with Apple. And a solid thing got. Yeah. A solid thing got. So which is a hint about where we're going today, because one of the reasons why this thing yeah could have such an impact is because there is an effective monopoly in the market, in this free market. There is an effective monopoly in the free market right here now. So I said, you may never have heard of the antivirus firm CrowdStrike before, but something it did to its virus scanner Falcon had a very adverse effect on computers running Windows software in their millions. Blue screen of death reported worldwide. You probably don't need me to tell you what that is. Microsoft was quick to say it was a third-party issue. In other words, not its fault. Apple and Linux users unaffected rejoiced. CrowdStrike says it has now issued a fix, but several IT contacts have told me every single machine in their organization will require a manual reboot in safe mode, and some of these devices are likely to be more physically accessible than others. There is currently no suggestion that it was malicious or that anybody's data has been compromised, accessed, or stolen. The cybersecurity world still advises that it is a good idea to keep on top of software updates, although perhaps today is not the day to bang that particular drum. CrowdStrike's statement when it arrived stopped short of an apology, which infuriated people online. However, shortly after the statement was released, CEO George Kurtz told US broadcaster NBC, "We're deeply sorry for the impact that we've caused to customers, to travelers, to anyone affected by this, including our companies. It is a poignant reminder of how reliant the world has become on devices managed remotely by huge companies and how powerless it leaves us when they fail. These enormous platforms are bombarded all the time with attempted cyber attacks and ill-thought-out software updates, and most of them are caught by tech giants. Robust systems. There will no doubt be a post-mortem at Microsoft as to why this one was not. Timing is also everything. Quote, never push an update on a Friday, sighed one computer scientist I spoke to, head in hands. That's because if something goes wrong, it takes time to fix. Firms typically have fewer people working at the weekend, so it will inevitably take even longer to resolve. For that reason, many big firms tend to prefer updates during the middle of the week. If you are a CrowdStrike customer, there are details on its support website explaining the fix. And that is, in short, what it won the other day. Yeah. So I've heard estimates of up to 8 million, upwards of 8 million devices were affected by this particular thing. And when you consider the fact that many of those devices were not like individual things like somebody in them house, yeah, I do them work. They're parts of companies and firms, and I said airports and hospitals and all them things there, you can get to see how quickly 8 million can be a significant thing for hundreds of millions of people, if not billions. Yeah, very, very serious thing. Yeah. So let's just do one something very quickly. Yeah, CrowdStrike. Yeah. Let's check something about where CrowdStrike is based. Yeah. So CrowdStrike Holdings is an American. So let me actually share this screen. All right. So you can see where I go on. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So you can see where me I go with this thing. Yeah. All right. So CrowdStrike Holdings is an American company, technology company, cybersecurity technology company based in Austin, Texas. It provides endpoint security, threat intelligence, and cyber attack response services. Yeah. So bear in mind now, what we are dealing with is checking where it comes from. Yeah. Austin, Texas. That's where it's based. All right. That is where it is based. Okay. So today, our subject, brothers and sisters, is the white imperialist technocracy. Well, Shakara, what is a technocracy? A technocracy is a government or or control of society by or industry by an elite of technical experts. The government or control of society or industry by an elite or technical experts. And in the title, what I am suggesting is that this technocracy is an imperialist technocracy. More specifically, a white imperialist technocracy. More specifically, a white Western imperialist technocracy. And we're going to go to a particular text to help us identify the fact that this is a reality. And the text that we're going to go to is called Underground Empire. And it is written by two European American gentlemen by the name of Henry Farrell and Abraham Newman. And one of these used to work for an institution called the Council on Foreign Relations, a very, very important organization, central, for example, to the establishment of the United Nations and related institutions. And so though these people have significant impact upon global geopolitics, brothers and sisters. And so we're not going to get today from these European American gentlemen a revolutionary analysis. Bear in mind, and this will be made clearer in the text, that every now and then you have agents of and advocates of white Western power and imperialism that feel to listen, it now run correct. That the imperialism where we are going with is not really the imperialism where we should it go on with. And so we want change and make a little reform, yes and this in relation to how our imperialism runs. So in this book, we're not getting an analysis that is dedicated to the ending of imperialism, but the reformation of imperialism, and this in particular, American imperialism. However, there is useful information in the text. And the text is a good book to read for that purpose. Underground Empire, How America Weaponized the World Economy. How America weaponized the world economy. I'm going to read some sections of the introduction, which has a very interesting title. The introduction is called All Roads Lead to Rome. All roads lead to Rome. And in the illustrious words of that great prophet of music, reggae music, brothers and sisters, Anthony B., fire upon Rome. Fire upon Rome and all of the roads that lead to Rome, brothers and sisters. They begin the article with an analogy and a comparison between roads that led to Rome, yeah. So that and the idea that in the Roman period where Rome dominated the world, that all roads, yeah, did lead to Rome, quite literally, and Washington D.C. and the extent to which Washington D.C. the architecture of Washington, D.C. was inspired by Roman architecture. And then they further analogize and extend that analogy to the global economy and the extent to which the global economy, all roads in the global economy lead to America. And what they're going to do is explain now how that domination of the global economy has manifested itself in the technological sphere, brothers and sisters. So I could go into this reading right here now. The book reads, many centuries after the empire, that is the Roman Empire, had fallen, a medieval proverb maintained that all roads lead to Rome. The infrastructure that Rome built still casts a shadow on the modern economy. History is lazy. Once something has been built, it is easier to build on top of it. Highways in France and Italy follow routes that were decreed by an imperial censor thousands of years ago. In modern times, much of the real business of empire has moved underground. American imperium still uses military power to keep surface trade routes open, deploying the US Navy to control global sea lanes. But American power also travels along buried fiber optic cables. Buried fiber optic cables, insinuating itself into networks like the internet and the complex financial infrastructures used by banks to send money around the world. American power also travels along buried fiber optic cables, insinuating itself into networks like the internet and the global and the complex financial infrastructures used by banks to send money around the world. Beneath the open markets that facilitate global trade, manufacturing, lies a less tangible network of intellectual property and technological expertise. Again, this provides American leaders with unparalleled levels of control. These world-spanning systems were not created as a part of a deliberate plot of political domination. So remember, I'm telling you, that these people, are not revolutionaries. All right, they're not critiquing Western imperialism for the sake of ending Western imperialism. And when you see lines like these, then you know that is the case. The idea that these world-spanning systems were not created as a part of a deliberate plot for political domination. It's absolute nonsense. But like I said, there is interesting information in the book. They were mostly built by private companies. Yeah, so the infrastructure, the point here is that was not built by governments. Yeah, it was specific intention of global power, world domination. It wasn't the governments that built this infrastructure. It was private companies. Okay, pursuing efficiency and profit. But that was also true of older empires, whose legionnaires often followed the footsteps of their merchants. So basically, they're saying that there's a symbiotic relationship between militaries of empires and merchants that represent or operate within empires. Yeah? That there's not a sharp distinction significantly to be made between the military power of an empire and the economic power of an empire. That distinction is a very thin line, if any line exists at all. Modern empire has turned The subterranean machineries that enabled global markets and information flows, fiber optic cables, server farms, financial payment systems, and the manufacturing systems that produce complex products such as semiconductors into tools of coercion. So everything we are use right here now, even to facilitate this conversation right here now, is in fact a tool of coercion in the hands of those who wield political and economic power. On a casual glance, these systems seem simultaneously dull and arcane, the complicated wiring and plumbing arrangements of the global economy. But the plumbing is what? Political. The plumbing is political. Just as all roads once led to Rome, the world's fiber optic networks, financial systems, and semiconductor supply chains all converge on the United States. The world's fiber optic networks, financial systems, and semiconductor supply chains converge on the United States, allowing it to project its might. So basically, all the technology we use to facilitate this conversation here, all the technology where we use for online banking, all the technology where we use for buy things upon the internet, is connected to systems and institutions and infrastructure based in the United States of America. Indeed, if you want to understand how these systems work, it is helpful to imagine them as roads. Every morning, commuters leave the quiet residential streets they live on, turning onto busier ones, which in turn connect to arterial airways. So too, people enter the underground empire every morning. They turn on their mobile phones, log on to their work computers, perhaps send some money to a family member without thinking about it. They are sending their information across buried wires that might connect to global information arteries, such as the so-called internet backbone of high-speed cables, a highway with millions of lanes on which local and international traffic mix indiscriminately. On this virtual road, American cars with local license plates end taxation without representation, or Virginia is for lovers. Yes, that's a scene that happens in America, might weave between trucks with logos in Chinese script, Persian, French, and Russian, each heading to their own local destinations. People in other countries too are checking their email, buying products from Amazon or its local competitors, and paying for their bills. And whenever you're doing any of those things, you are traveling effectively through the American economy. All these different people in their different countries use the same highway. It is as if Route I-66, instead of just being connecting Washington, D.C. to its surrounding hinterland, also wound invisibly through other cities such as Beijing, Ankara, Paris, and Vladivostok. Them word there, connecting everywhere to everywhere. The big catch is that travelers from these various parts of the world might be diverted through the DC suburbs, even if they are taking a short local trip between different neighborhoods in Dublin or Kirkuk. So how did we get to this point, brothers and sisters? Yeah, so all of that is explaining the fact that, generally speaking, because the global economic system, as it was formating itself in modern times, did so within the context, this is my language now, of white power, Western imperialism. The infrastructure of the global economy continue to build itself along those lines, providing white power Western imperialism with a continued level and evolving levels of power in relation to the infrastructure they're in. So that technology and the economy that was built around and upon and within this technological development did not appreciably change the political economy of the world. Rather, the political economy of the world was built along the symbolic roads that had been well traveled and trodden when all of this technological development was taking place. So let's get into a little bit more detail of how this actually happened. For those who are just joining us, we're reading from a book by the name of Underground Empire. Why was a world of open global networks so well suited to American empire? Some think that the answer is simple. Empire and global networks were different phases of a vast and complex plot, which has slowly unfolded over decades. Vladimir Putin, for example, has claimed that the internet is a CIA project designed to empower America by undermining Russia and other autocratic states. Now, they say that Vladimir Putin says. What they don't mention is the fact that he's not completely wrong about this. To the extent that the internet as we know it today began as American military project during the Cold War. Yeah, it was built upon technology that was devised by the American military in their competition with Russia during the Cold War, right? So that's not a completely, yeah, you know what I'm saying, ludicrous opinion to have, yeah? He seems to believe the Cold War never finished. It just evolved from power games into the shadow of nuclear confrontation to semi-clandestine information war conducted via networks that were purposely built to be weaponized against American adversaries. Yeah. Financial networks. We're moving on now, because we can't read everything. Oh, but I do need to read this part. Those who built this new world thought just the opposite, claiming that it had put an end to old style geopolitical maneuvering between states. So this is the opposite argument now. In a 1999 article, Thomas Friedman, an evangelist of the New Age, declared that an old world divided by a wall had given way to a new one bound together by a web. Back then, the World Wide Web seemed new and exciting. It provided an easy synecdoche, by the way, I don't know them word there, for the broader post-Cold War transformation of the world economy. Information networks such as the internet convey torrents of information across borders, building new global markets as businesses found customers and suppliers in other countries. Financial networks expanded. This is now basically the neoliberal era, yes? From the 1970s coming into the 90s, with the fall of the Soviet Union now, and the neoliberal era now flourishing, yes, with the defeat of communism, and being able to expand itself with unfettered growth, yeah, throughout the world. Financial networks expanded, allowing money to move rapidly across the world in search of fleeting opportunities for arbitrage or long term investments. Global trade was no longer the exchange of raw commodities and finished products. The global trading system was transformed into an intricate, decentralized factory floor where complex products could be designed in one country and assembled in another from components and subcomponents produced around the planet. The world was now flat. Historically minded economists and social scientists, and I've highlighted this differently because when it says historically minded economists, bear in mind, brothers and sisters, that a good number of economists, simple as it take here, are not historically minded. The discipline of economics is very much built around theories, much of which are untested in reality, in the actual reality of real economies. And as and where they are tested, have been found wanting. In other words, there is a significant deficit between the extent to which the theory is adhered to and promoted and the actual impacts and effects produced by the application of said theories on the ground, or even the extent to which said theories are applied on the ground if you are comparing the actual application in real terms with the rote theory on paper. Historically minded economists and social scientists often talk about path dependence, the way in which decisions taken long ago, where to locate cities, what to say in a constitution, constrain our actions today. The new networks of the global world economy were path dependent in quite a literal sense. That is explaining exactly what I explained before, to the extent that white Western imperialist nations, basically, because they had dominated the world economy, it meant that the global economy that was in development and these new networks were dependent upon those geopolitical relationships. This meant that the paths that they built followed the older arteries of power, connecting to the hearts of the old post World War II empire, the physical territory of the United States of America. We're going to skip some paragraph and go down. But so long as the United States had the will to change things, the means were close at hand. Key global networks were centered on on United States, allowing US authorities in the NSA, the Department of the Treasury, and elsewhere to turn the broader network to their own purposes. The global economy relied on pre-constructed system of a pre-constructed system of tunnels and conduits that the United States could move into and adapt. Once again, the global economy relied on a pre-constructed system of tunnels and conduits that the United States could move into and adapt nearly as easily as if they had been custom designed by a military engineer for the purpose. By seizing control of key intersections, the US government could secretly listen to what adversaries were saying to each other or freeze them out of the global finance system. Let us continue. When the US government started taking full advantage of America's position in global networks, its surveillance state was transformed. So too was America's system of financial coercion. Listen carefully now. Within a couple of weeks of the September 11 attack, the United States Department of the Treasury has started to aggressively investigate its options for gathering data from the world so that it could detect future attacks. It quickly identified SWIFT. Now, many of you may have heard of SWIFT. Until I read this book, I didn't actually know that SWIFT was an acronym. The acronym SWIFT means Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunications. SWIFT, Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication. Now, you may have come across SWIFT if you pay for something on the internet before. Yeah, it's a payment system that works online. Yeah, and it's one of the most dominant ones. Messaging system, which plays a core role in global financial transfers. As a crucial source of information and demanded access. Sorry, let me start this sentence again because may I read it wrong. Hold on there. Within a couple of weeks of the September 11 attacks, the U.S. Department of the Treasury had started to aggressively investigate its options for gathering data from the world so that it could detect future attacks. It quickly identified SWIFT, Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunications messaging system, which plays a core role in global financial transfers, as a crucial source of information and demanded access to SWIFT's information under pain of criminal subpoenas. So if you never accede to the demand of the American government in relation to SWIFT, you get a subpoena basically. Yes? Come before the court and have to answer some question. Treasury also began to develop a new kind of sanction, which used its control of dollar clearing to force international banks to implement US policy outside its borders. Control of SWIFT and dollar clearing were combined to cut Iran out of the world's financial system, forcing it to the negotiating table to discuss its nuclear weapons program. The US officials who planned these steps often thought of them as once-off emergency measures. Instead, they became the precedent for a more general transformation of US financial power. Let me move quickly now. The picture started to come together during the Trump administration, which believed that the United States, far from overusing its powers, wasn't nearly aggressive enough. And so they're saying here that for a lot of this stuff was going on since 9/11, but most of the time people didn't really know about it. And it became more and more apparent as the US began to use this power more openly on the global stage. And so they are identifying, they're obviously not fans of Donald Trump. Yeah, they're obviously on the more democratic side of the political spectrum as far as the United States of America is concerned. And as I've already said, that really and truly, as far as imperialism is concerned, the left is really no different to the right. Yeah, the Democratic Party is really no different to the Republican Party. All right. But they say that the picture started to come together during the Trump administration, which believed that the United States, far from overusing its powers, wasn't nearly aggressive enough. Trump did not build the underground empire, but he made it more visible and far more controversial. This certainly wasn't because Trump himself connected the dots. When he discovered new tools of coercion, he was as delighted as a toddler with new toys. But he didn't have sufficient attention span to really understand how to make other countries bend beneath the yoke. While he wanted tribute, Trump was often willing to settle for attention. Regardless, the United States extended its underground empire in increasingly belligerent ways. And as its victims started paying attention, they began to piece together a different understanding of US power. Trump's administration used the power of the US financial system, for example, to target not just terrorists, but human rights officials. Over time, it lurched haphazardly but irreversibly towards developing tools to target not just rogue states like North Korea, but core assets of other great powers like China. And all of this became very apparent when, it's going to explain here. It was easier for China and Europe to understand the threat than to know what to do about it. So now, basically, all of this is revealing how America's domination of the of technocratic control of these financial systems can be used as an asset of American military might. And Europe is beginning to understand this. And so is China. And Europe as a collective, because even though they're all part of the same club, Europe wants to maintain its power, a certain semblance of power that is not completely dominated by America. Yeah. And China is the number one threat, to both of these economies as it stands at the moment. It says it was easier for China and Europe to understand the threat than to know what to do about it. It was hard for China to build its own technology. When Russia invaded Ukraine, Europe discovered how much it needed America. So all the while, this is a confession now. All the while, them the one, them economy dominated by America, and so the whole European Union and the European Economic Community and all them thing there was partly based around having some semblance of power throughout Europe and a market throughout Europe to be able to match the breadth and depth of the American market. Yeah, but Bakra know when Bakra interests become paramount. Yeah. So when Russia invaded Ukraine, Europe discovered how much it needed America. Businesses and individuals too faced impossible dilemmas as the United States began to confront China. They were stranded in a no man's land between warring empires, one trying to retain its grasp on global networks and the other struggling to displace it. Once, when multinational corporations thought about political risk, they feared kleptocratic dictators. Now, they worried that America might press them into service or China might retaliate. And so one of the things that you've gone into before is the extent to which when Russia invaded Ukraine, America was able to seize billions, yes, in Russian assets because of its control over these financial systems. The fact that this power, this financial power, this technocratic power is centralized so heavily in America and American corporations that a whole other nation that is not an impoverished, yes, powerless nation on the global stage like Russia could have billions of its assets taken just so, and they could be cut out effectively of the global market just like that. And had it not been for a certain semblance of independence as far as China is concerned, Russia's economy would have suffered significantly because of it. Yeah. But both China and India and Russia have increased their trade relationships with each other. And that is a part of the reason why America considers China to be such a threat at this time. Yes, because it has the wherewithal and is developing the wherewithal to facilitate an alternative, economic system as it stands right now, brothers and sisters. So when we see that one security company, cybersecurity company in America can cause a global outage in IT across the world. This is the reason why, because the infrastructure of the technology is centralized in America and towards the maintenance of American power in today's world. And remember, one of the major companies that was affected by this is Microsoft. And we all know how big Microsoft is. But I explained as I began the reading that not when you read books like this, you have to be very, very aware of the fact that when you're reading this information, these people are still interested in the sustenance, maintenance, and perpetuation of white power, Western imperialism. And I want to make that clear, because when you're reading a book like this, you have to make that very, very clear and unequivocal, because, you know, we don't know what stages of knowledge and information and reading everybody is at. So we want to make these points very, very clear. And so to elucidate that point, I'm going to read the last section, a piece in the last section of the introduction to this book, Underground Empire. Averting breakdown will require the United States to work towards a different vision of security. And so prior to this particular paragraph, they're detailing the fact that the America operating in this way on the world stage is possibly going to lead, or is inevitably going to lead, to its detriment. That them can't maintain this kind of relationship with the rest of the world. It is not a sustainable reality, and if it don't change, it's going to come back to bite America in the backside, and America will in fact lose its power. That is the concern of the people that wrote this book. Good information, useful information notwithstanding, let us be clear about what their intentions are. These are Western imperialists nonetheless. They just want a different kind of Western imperialism. It says it will have to acknowledge, that is the USA, the responsibility that comes with power, allowing others to secure themselves from America's network imperialism. Music, yeah, you know, you can't just dominate everybody's things, so you have to allow them some level of protection for themselves. Yes? At the same time, it must lead the way. Yeah, America must lead the way in working out rules of the road for a world where adversaries are inextricably tied together by global networks. In the Cold War, the United States was willing to talk to Russia, to the USSR, to figure out what each side was able to accept and to avoid destabilizing misadventures with nuclear weapons. Historical precedent shows it can do this and must do this. It is American fingers that are closest to the power switches. Building resilience and mitigating vulnerabilities will lead to a better future than crude nationalism and reshoring. Reshoring is like the return of American jobs to America, basically. So that let's not outsource the production of our technology to China and to the production of our clothes to India and Bangladesh. Let's reshore those industries and give Americans jobs. Yeah. No one likes or trusts a bully, but people are willing to accept power if it is used benevolently. So America, just be a benevolent dictator on ya. Be a benevolent power on ya. Be a benevolent imperialist. Be a benevolent tyrant in this time. Yeah? You know what I'm saying? Don't just be an out-and-out bully. Be a benevolent. That's the concern of the European American gentleman that wrote this book. International superpower that it is, the United States might even support a vision of commonwealth rather than empire. Yes. Now this is if you know. So let me finish reading the sentence. We'll come there. In which it and other actors secure collective benefits rather than contending over narrow interest. International superpower that it is, the United States might even support a vision of commonwealth rather than empire, in which it and other actors secure collective benefits rather than contending over narrow interests. Yeah. Now, this idea of commonwealth over empire. So I say that people that are concerned, yeah, with maintaining and perpetuating white power, Western imperialism, because this is actually, listen, the more things change, the more them stay the same. This is in fact, now we have to understand the United States of America as a child, a direct pitney of the United Kingdom of Great Britain. And when the United Kingdom of Great Britain, yes, was disbanding its empire based upon the fact that it couldn't maintain it no more, to a significant degree based upon the fact that those who are being colonized by them were fighting back. Yes, let's bear that in mind. What them do, them say, all right, we'll end the empire and start a commonwealth. And that commonwealth exists to this day, brothers and sisters. And that commonwealth was the more benevolent face of British imperialism at the time. And so what these European American gentlemen who have written this book is saying is that they need to follow the example of their daddies in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and evolve American imperialism from big bully business to benevolent commonwealth interactions. Let them I say yes, sir. Yeah. And so we go through this, brothers and sisters, just to exemplify the fact that when we are dealing with an IT outage like the one where we did experience a few days ago, it is possible because of the effective monopoly that America has on global technology. And we are all susceptible to it. Yeah. Like I said, the technology where we are used right now is an example of all of that. That is just the truth, the reality of where we are at the moment. But nations who are concerned with self-determination are also concerned with addressing that reality. And we also have to pay attention to the difference between what white power says and how it operates in the world. Because they tell us that this system is supposed to be one that is based upon competition, where competition is allowed to flourish. And in order for competition to flourish, nobody can have a monopoly over an industry. And the facade is that as long as a number of companies are operating in an industry, a monopoly does not exist. And that's a fallacy based upon two dynamics. The first is that if you confine the idea of monopoly to just one company, it's easy to overlook the fact that almost every industry in the global economy is dominated by 2, 3, maybe 4 companies. And sometimes those companies are even interlinked with each other. So whereas it's not a monopoly in the strictest sense, it's an effective monopoly. And secondly, because they're getting you to focus on the number of companies that are operating within the industry, it's also easy to overlook the national interest inherent in the domicile of those companies. In other words, if 5 companies dominate the industry, but all of those companies are American and allegiant to American imperialism, America, the monopoly exists in America. It's easy to overlook that. And so the companies are expressions of American imperialism, designed to secure America's monopoly and the perpetuation of America's monopoly and the power that it wields as a result of that monopoly on the global stage. And that we're upon right here now. Now, what I haven't studied, or what I have not studied in relation to these dynamics, is the extent to which this outage affected China. Yeah? I haven't studied that. And I'd be interested to know if anybody has any knowledge of that. Yeah, feel free to hit me up in the chat at gotkushTV and or come live with I and elucidate the dynamics, brothers and sisters. All right. Right. I intended today to be a shorter session, you know, but I realize I'm already at 20 past 9. So it's in Kings and Queens. When you start reading something, like it can take a while to get through. Yeah, but we'll see if anybody wants to come through. The link is in the chat. So anybody who wants to come through the conversation can come through the conversation. I have been, for those who are not who are just coming through, we have been discussing the imperialist technocracy, the white Western imperialist technocracy, and I've been reading from a book by Henry Farrell and Abraham Newman called Underground Empire: How America Weaponized the World Economy. How America weaponized the world economy. As I've said, the book is written, one of them, the gentleman who wrote this book, the European American gentleman who wrote this book, was a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, which is one of the key white power Western imperialist institutions in today's world. But every now and then you get Bakra who just feels that imperialism should run differently. They're not looking to end the imperialism. They just want a reformation in the imperialism, and they're going to fight for that as far as America is concerned, Britain is concerned, France is concerned. So we should not be taken in by that. Yeah, we have to have our own interest, but sometimes then write some book with some useful information, and so we're bringing that to you today, brothers and sisters. Yeah, so we hope ones have learned something from the conversation. I'm going to be on for another 5 minutes, yeah, depending on the questions that I get, and also if anybody wants to come through and interact, so feel free to click the link and or ask a question in the chat at gotkushTV, or at Kimbunga Media. Kimbunga is spelled KIMBUNGA, brothers and sisters. Yes, indeed, we are transitioning from gotkushTV to Kimbunga Media. And while you're getting your questions and comments through, and or deciding on whether you want to come live, let me let you know about a few events that are taking place next month. Yes, indeed, brothers and sisters, it is the month of Mosiah, and we open the month with the Mosiah opening ceremony. Yes, indeed, the Mosiah opening ceremony taking place on Omojade Sunday, the 4th of the month, called Mosiah, from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m., brothers and sisters. Special libation, readings, and ceremonialization will be taking place, and I have the honor of delivering the keynote address on the subject of Kimbunga. Look for me in the whirlwind, brothers and sisters. I look forward to sharing that message with you. Brothers and sisters. And it's partly due to the fact that we are in a centennial moment of a few of Papa Garvey's utterances. One is the pamphlet that he produced on African fundamentalism, which is essential reading. Yeah, so you can go Google that. And also the statement, look for me in the whirlwind, the declaration, the pronouncement, the prophecy, look for me in the whirlwind, brothers and sisters. And for those who are not aware, the word sounds Kimbunga in the language of Kiswahili, simply means whirlwind. And on the birthday of Papa Garvey himself, the birthday of the prophet, we are going to take over Brixton with the drums of Mosiah. Yes, indeed, brothers and sisters, the drums of Mosiah coming to you from 5 p.m. on the 17th of Mosiah, Winrush Square in Brixton, SW2 1JQ. Bring your drum and our percussion, bring our horn, bring a trumpet, bring a saxophone, bring your foot, your dancing foot, and bring your singing voices. We're going to take our bricks for a few hours, brothers and sisters, in the name of Mosiah. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And that's the thing there. Mosiah live. All right, brothers and sisters. So, having gone through all of that, we are going to close the stream today, brothers and sisters, and we hope that ones and ones have gained some knowledge, information, and inspiration from what we have shared with you today. Suffice to say that these are the issues that we have to be concerned with as African people if we are looking to be self-determining and empowered in today's world. I learned some years ago, then when you go to China, you can't just log into Facebook and YouTube. You have to, because they have a different internet system over there. Yeah. And so you have to get all kind of different connection and add-on if you want to get onto regular sites that we use in the Western world. Yeah. And then more recently we learned that TikTok is very different, operates very differently in China than it operates in the Western world. We've seen one of the passages that I didn't read, but the book touches on, or the introduction touches on, is Donald Trump, under Donald Trump and Joe Biden, and also the government, the conservative government in the UK in the last few years, have sought to move against Huawei from moving to outright ban it at one point. Yeah, the telecommunication company Huawei, because it's Chinese based and connected to the Chinese government. So they either wanted to ban it and or severely restrict it, brothers and sisters, and began a trade war with the Chinese company. All right. And so all of that to say that any people who are looking to be self-determining have to develop institutions that allow them to extricate themselves from the institutions of those who would wield power over and against them. Yeah. I'm not claiming to know how to do that in this instance. I'm not claiming to have the technological expertise to be able to pull that off. I am simply saying that empowering ourselves in today's world requires us to be concerned about those issues and solving those problems. Okay, we do have a comment from Chikezi. Would you agree that the global public health response to COVID was an example of imperialist technocracy? Did we not see that as a non-elite masses? Did we not see that all non-elite masses were affected, white and melanated? Yes, I would agree. I would agree. At the time of the COVID pandemic, there were a lot of brothers and sisters in the so-called conscious community, online conscious community, who are running around promoting the vaccine. Yeah. And the efficacy of the COVID vaccine in the name of promoting scientific literacy. And it was apparent to me that among the brothers and sisters who were engaged in this promotion of scientific literacy, none of them were discussing, as Nana Amos Wilson put it, the politics of science and the economics of science. An example of this is that Cuba had developed treatments and a vaccine and had distributed a number of doctors in various different nations. And from what I understand of the treatments that they had developed, they were relatively effective in addressing the issue of COVID. But under no circumstances were Cuban doctors, and treatments or vaccinations derived from Cuban sources were to be allowed into America, into Britain, into France, and the rest of the Western world. And to the extent that these nations had influence over other nations, the Cuban doctors and treatments were not allowed to be imported into those nations. The politics and economics of science. Yeah. If we understand vaccine and all them things to be a form of technology. India had its own situation, yeah, whereby they had developed some kind of a treatment and they didn't want to accept the Pfizer vaccine because of the strings that were attached to the Pfizer vaccination. I can't remember the full story as it relates to India off the top of my head right now. Yeah. But India didn't want to accept certain conditionalities that came with the Pfizer vaccine. The book Underground Empire mentioned the issue of intellectual property. And that's another area in which the technocratic nature of the COVID situation manifested itself. Because the vaccinations were copyrighted. They were the intellectual property of specific corporations. Pfizer being one, Alka-Sensa, the UK one. I saw it, didn't you? Can't remember, but it's something still, sir. Alka-Sensa or something like that. The UK based corporation. Yeah. And whereas there were nations such as India and I believe Brazil and a couple others that were seeking the waiving of the intellectual property rights so that nations could reproduce the vaccination themselves. Yes? Without having to pay Pfizer or any other company money. Because it was cheaper for them to reproduce the vaccine than to pay for it from these Western corporations. And the corporations and the governments from which these corporations come and operate under refused, even in the face of a global pandemic, a medical emergency, to waive the patent. Yeah. Now, this is outside of whether you believe the vaccine was effective or in itself a tool of warfare. Yeah, and all them things there. All of those things are valid conversations. That's not what I'm talking about right now. I'm talking about the politics and economics of science, to the extent that they say this is a life-saving jab. But the profit margin of big bomber pharma corporations seems to take precedence over global public health. So absolutely, the COVID pandemic is one of the best examples of the white Western imperialist technocracy as it relates to today's world. Yeah. And I want to implore brothers and sisters who are promoting scientific literacy to be more concerned with those kinds of matters. I also want to implore the brothers and sisters who are invested in proving that the vaccine is what is killing people to do the same. There's not enough of us who are researching and focusing on the issue, on issues like what I've just mentioned: the patent, the distribution, the conditions attached to the distribution, the alternative. I didn't want to use the word alternative. The treatments that other nations are producing that have provable results, but because they operate outside of the regulatory systems of white power, are not allowed the same level of distribution on a global market that claims, for the most part, to operate on the principles of freedom of choice, the free market. And you will notice that very few, if any, free market fundamentalists were campaigning on the issue of the vaccine and other COVID treatments being subject to free market principles. They never said, well, oh yeah, X out the Cuban doctor, them out of the market. Free up the market to make the Cuban vaccine, operate and circulate freely. They never said that. Just like they tend not to say it when it comes to the distribution of uranium, which is a key element in the reproduction of nuclear weaponry, heavily regulated by the US government. And the US government, through its regulation of uranium, is able to decide who and who does not acquire a nuclear arsenal. Free market fundamentalists tend not to be out here free up the uranium. I make the uranium subject to the free market. Yeah. Make Iran get a nuclear if they want to get a nuclear. Make Afghanistan get a nuclear if they want to get a nuclear. And make Congo develop its own nuclear if it want to develop its own nuclear. Not no gosso. So yes, my brother Chikezi. Yeah, I would agree with your sentiment that the COVID vaccination is a key example of white Western imperialist technocracy in today's world. And with that, brothers and sisters, we say unto thee, Tendam Wali, be thankful unto the Mother, Father, creative life force of the universe. Kuzai Mudzimu Mokuro. We give praises unto our great ancestors. Abibi Tumi, Abibi Fahodi, African power and African liberation for all African people. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe.
New era, new transition. Greetings, this is Shakara, and it's been an honor serving you as director of gotkushTV. Over the past few years, we've brought you the pilot of the Black Root Economic Show, many seasons of Wordsmith, The Insight, and the ever-popular Decipher. We have covered community events and even hosted a few of our own, including Blacktricity, as a part of the official Ghana Beyond the Return roster. We also kept you company throughout lockdown with the Quarantine Convo. After a brief hiatus, we came back with our regular weekly interactive live show, Zivanai, keeping you up to date with current events around the Black world, from UK to Senegal to Haiti and beyond.
It is our aim to continue to develop as a premier black media institution, and for that reason, we have a special announcement. Introducing Kimbunga Media. Between the 10th of June and the 17th of Mosiah, August, we will be transitioning to a new name and institution, Kimbunga Media. In the beautiful Kiswahili language, Kimbunga means whirlwind.
Look for me in a whirlwind or a storm. Look for me all around you. For with God's grace, I shall come back with countless millions of black men and women who have died in America, those who have died in the West Indies, and those who have died in Africa, to aid you in the fight for liberty, freedom, and life.
Our name symbolizes our aim to take the media landscape by storm, developing high quality, impactful, geopolitical and cultural content aimed at empowering African people, bringing knowledge, information, inspiration and analysis from an unapologetically Pan-African, universal African nationalist and African-centered perspective. So, what can you expect? We are gradually developing a full spectrum of flagship shows and presenters, but in the immediate right here now, over the next couple of years, we have two major aims in bringing you our flagship shows. One, the return of Kush Communiversity, bringing you high-level scholarship in all areas of people activity, featuring luminaries from across the black world. And two, the production of the full first season of the new and improved Ujamaa Black Group Economic Show. While we encourage you to develop and support black businesses, this show aims to raise our awareness of the political economy of today's world and popularize new solution paradigms in political economy among African people. Alongside all this, we will continue to bring you Zivanai, Jaliba, the Afrocentric perspective, All Eyes on Africa, Ghana, Democracy Under Fire, the Revolutionary Minds team with that artistic, ancestral energy, and as things grow and develop, there'll be plenty more. We also have plans to host live events and film screenings, so stay tuned for more information on that. So what can you do? Continue to support us by watching, liking, sharing and commenting on our content. Be sure to follow us on all social media, and if you are so moved, join our Patreon community. We'll be sharing flagship shows exclusively with our Patreon community before general release and granting you discounts to events and future screenings. Right now, if you become a Patreon, you will have access to the pilot for the Black Group Economic Show and all installments of last year's Black History Month series, Sankofa, The Future of Black History. At some point, we'll be engaging in community crowdfunding towards the production of the new and improved Ujamaa Black Group Economic Show, complete with offerings and perks for those who choose to invest in us. Look out for the launch, and we thank you in advance for your support. Any questions, feel free to hit us up in the comment section and we'll be sure to address. We look forward to you joining us for this new phase of our development. Stay tuned as we bring you Kimbunga Media.
Black people, we've got to fight. Jean Petro, you see us. Oguo, we've got to fight. Let's go fight. Oh, black people, we've got to fight. Zumbi, you see us. Oh, we've got to fight. Let's go fight. Oh, black people, we've got to fight. Yes, until why you see us. Oh, we've got to fight. Let's go fight. Oh, black people, we've got to fight. Book mine, you see us. Oh, we've got to fight. Let's go fight. Oh,
we have to have the courage to construct our own reality. And that's what Garvey was talking about. Because he said he looked around, he didn't see what he thought should be there, and so what did he do? He didn't get depressed about it. He didn't get defeated about it. He said, I'm gonna build the government that we need to have. Ooh, where do you get that kind of boldness from? So we gotta go all the way back to Garvey, who said he would come again. He said he would be here with us, no matter how long it took. And I'm telling you that the way he comes back is in our work. Not honoring him in words, pomp and all of that stuff, but honoring him through doing what he did. How many of us have the courage to do that? The man took on the world for us and in our name. And then we come to Sodai. And in this presentation of the paradigm, I'm going to make this like what it is we want to reach. So Sodai is translated clear word in Dogana language. And I use it to mean that here we gain understanding. This is sight with understanding. And it is seeing beyond what just we think we see with this physical thing. It's seeing beyond that. And so we gain vision, because that's what vision is. With vision, you've got to be able to use the imagination informed by the African spirit. And Brother Amos, who I work very closely with, was a good friend of mine. He taught me, and he would talk about imagination. Image a nation. Do you see? But that's got to be part of vision. To be a visionary, you got to see beyond this box here. You got to see beyond the ma'afa. You got to see what is it that our people rightfully should have, and that's what Garvey did. Garvey had a vision.